not very practical. Like they look down on wedding photographers actually. Like it's definitely like anyone could be that, you know, but we are like artists. And I remember.
Welcome back to Normalize Excellence. This is episode 3. Today we're meeting a professional photographer and hearing about her journey to become a successful small business owner, doing what she loves, owning her own time. Leave a comment in the comment section below and let me know what you think about this podcast and what you'd like to hear next. Enjoy. Welcome to Normalize Excellence, Alicia. Thank you so much for joining me today. We're going to start up some warm-up questions. Get you nice and loose. We'll feel good after this, okay?
Yep.
So what do you sing at karaoke?
Oh, My Humps, Black Eyed Peas.
Oh, that's a good song.
That's probably the only one I remember I've ever done.
What would you rather do? Mow the lawn, fold the clothes, or clean the house? Or none of the above?
Actually, I told Tom I'd definitely mow the lawn if it's a
Oh,
ride
really?
on. Only if it's a ride on.
Okay.
No,
that's good.
Tom does all the rest. Yeah.
Okay. How many pairs of shoes do you own?
Oh, maybe like 30.
30?
Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
20 to 30 for sure.
Tom did mention that you do like buying
Yeah,
clothes.
I have a lot. Yeah, definitely. I've got at least like 2 or 3 of the same shoe in a few different colours as well. Like at least 3 pairs I've got in multiple colours.
Well, I guess like maybe for your shoots and stuff, it makes sense, right? Like
no, they're just my general shoes. Yeah.
Okay.
Like even the shoes I'm wearing, I've got them in another colour as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, nice. Okay, are you organised or chaotic?
Chaotic.
Do you wake up early or late?
Late, definitely.
And have you been told you look like someone famous?
I don't think so, except I was at a wedding recently and they were like, you look like my sister. And I was like, I'm definitely the Aldi version of your sister. Please don't show her. And after like a 6-hour day, I was, well, actually that's quite short, but I was like, please don't show her this photo. Like go find one on my business page or something.
Yeah.
It's a bit better. But yeah, she's not famous, unfortunately. So.
Who are you and what do you do? How old are you now? All these kind of things. The real basic small talk stuff.
Okay, cool. I'm Alicia.
Yeah.
I'm 24 for another 2 weeks. And what do I do? I'm a photographer.
Professional photographer?
Yeah, I'm a photographer. I mostly shoot weddings, but I used to mostly shoot fashion as well. So now I mostly shoot weddings and I do a little bit of fashion and shoots like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's your business name? Let's shout it out.
I mean, I'm a sole trader, so it's Alicia Edwards Photography, I guess. But I'm
personal
also
brand.
doing,
I like it.
Yeah, I'm also doing a little bit of video now as well. So it's kind of like Alicia Edwards Creative, Alicia Edwards Weddings. It's just kind of like categorizing the different things I do, but using my name still. So I tried to think of a business name. I just couldn't come up with one. So.
Yeah. No, I think that's good. And personal brands are all the rage these days. So
yeah, I think a lot of people change back from business names, but the only issue with mine is that my name is really hard to spell because it's grammatically incorrect. So it's like EI when it should be IE technically.
Right.
But yeah, so that's the only issue is like telling people and they can't spell it or they spell it constantly a different way.
Yeah.
But yeah, besides that, I think it's fine. At least, you know, it's somewhat unique. Right?
Yeah. So where did you grow up?
I grew up in Emerald, in central Queensland.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. I'm from Rocky actually as well.
Oh, really?
So up
That's
that
funny.
way. Yeah. And who did you look up to the most when you're growing up?
Oh, I don't really know.
No?
Miley Cyrus.
Hannah
Montana. I don't know. I don't really have like one person. I have a big family, so I wouldn't really say like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't really say one of my parents or anything like that. Lebs, I was a bit all over the place.
No, that's okay.
I was like grew up Christian, so like maybe that. I don't know.
Jesus, I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's cool.
That would make more sense actually, but more realistic.
And well, do you have a defining moment of your childhood? Something that kind of changed you as you were growing up, that changed your direction or your path in life?
I think when I was in high school, things changed a lot, you know, as of course, like going through puberty, you just change in general.
Yeah.
And then I feel like, going through high school, my family went through a bit more of like hardship. So then there was definitely some defining things that happened then, like with my parents and them like losing their business and stuff like that. So we went through a lot of like personal hardship as well.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like around then maybe I went through like a bit of a tough period. That's when I kind of first started struggling with like mental health and stuff for the first time. So I guess around that stage, and then, you know, after high school, like moving, and then I lived out of home and stuff. So I think it all kind of like rolled one after the other from the age of 16 onwards probably.
So you moved out pretty early.
No, so I graduated school when I was 18. So I'm because I'm a December baby, I was like the year below behind.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my whole family moved to the sunny coast after I graduated high school in 2015. So in 2016 I moved and I lived with my parents, but then I also went to uni straight away in Brisbane. So I'd like commute a bit. So I kind of half lived out of home for the first year. And then after that, I moved out like fully the next year, my second year of uni.
And what were you studying at uni?
Bachelor of Photography.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So you knew your direction pretty early.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we could circle back to how I got into photography, which people ask, and it's a bit of a weird question because I think a lot of people gift them a camera or something and then they get into it that way. For me, it was like I had my iPhone 5 and I was taking photos at a concert and I was like, holy crap, this is like the best thing ever. I just remember it being like such good quality and I was just kind of like amazed by taking photos. And then I specifically remember it was the Script concert that I went to in Brisbane and I was just taking photos on my phone and it was wild. Anyway, and then I just somehow bought one of my friends from basketball, his mum was selling her camera, just like a really beginner DSLR. And I worked at Woolies at the time, so I paid like $500 for my first camera. And then I think I would have been like 15 or something at the time. So I just started taking photos of like sunsets, photos at the back of the boat at the dam, because there's a dam in Emerald, like where everyone goes, like we wakeboard and tube and everything that. So I just take photos of that. And then I went away for basketball a couple of times. I just take photos of people playing basketball. So nothing like in particular that I loved, except the sunsets were kind of cool as well. From there, that's when I wasn't really sure what I was going to do when I finished school, but I studied an OP and I think I got predicted like a 17. And then I saw the Bachelor of Photography and like the description, it was just sold you because it was like that little short and sweet, anyway, and then I was like, I need to do that. Like I just had that moment where I was like, I need to do that. And it was a 15. So I just tried my hardest for like the last term and then I got a 15 and I got in. So not the smartest cookie, but got in. So I didn't have to try too hard.
You did what you needed to do.
It actually worked out well. So,
and that's an interesting story because you mentioned earlier that you had a bit of hardship growing up, right, through your teenage years, and then maybe you got into photography. Was that maybe a bit of an outlet for you?
I mean, somewhat. I don't really know. To be honest, it's one of those things where like I think of photography and I just can't imagine not doing it. Like I feel like it is a part of me in some way, and I don't know, it sounds weird and I don't really know like exactly what it is. And growing up, I remember like after I bought that camera, I remember being like, like being a fashion photographer would be epic. Like I'd love to do that. But I didn't even take photos of people. Like I just didn't even think about taking photos of people, or like, I think because I grew up in a small town too, it's not as creative. I come from a family of builders, so it's quite like, I'm the only creative really in my family that like does like a creative art sort of thing. So I think like, it wasn't super normal.
It was just interesting to hear, I guess some of the things that you might have been doing through your teenage years because obviously you had that harder time and was photography that.
Well, that does bring, I didn't have a phone for like 6 months when I was 16 because of some like, ex-boyfriend. My dad got rid of it sort of thing. So I was paying for a couple of phones at that thing. Everyone that goes through those Telstra days where like the plan's really expensive and you go on your parents' plan anyway. So I was paying for a couple of phones, didn't have one, but I had an iPad in my camera. So I'd just take the SD card and put it in the iPad. And then like, I remember like making this is a really random story, but I made this like smoothie and took some photos of it. And I was like, that looks so cool. Yeah. Uploaded it to Instagram and I remember it tasted like crap. Like I didn't even drink it, but I was just like food photography. Like anyway, so I just remember like I love taking photos. So it was really hard at the time because I had already like become like obsessed with taking photos on my phone and then I didn't have one. That was honestly one of the worst parts about not having the phone, because with the iPad it's not like that grandma at a wedding where I'm just taking photos on the iPad. Obviously didn't take that with me everywhere. So I guess like you could say I did it at that time when I didn't have the phone. Like I'd still take photos on the camera more and then
it might help push you in the direction that you're at today.
I guess it encouraged me to use it more and stuff.
That's cool. That's really cool. So let's bring it to when you started your business. What was your vision for your life before you started your business, and then your vision for your life after?
Sure. I don't know about that second part. But, I mean, I don't really have like a defining moment of when I started my business, because when I graduated uni, I had done, I'm not sure how much paid work I'd done, but just like a few jobs here and there. And I do remember my first like paid job was just this model, and she paid me $100 to do some photos at Mount Cootha, like portfolio style.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I just remember like I worked at the fish factory, this seafood place for like 4 years. And I just remember being like, wow, like if I could ever get paid to do photography instead of working there, that's my dream. Like that is a dream to me. So I didn't really like think, I'm not really like a planner where at the time I just had this vision that I could be a successful photographer. And I think, I just never really like, again, when I thought about being a fashion photographer in high school, I never realistically, I didn't even know what that was. Like I didn't even think that was something I could be. So I just remember having that shoot. And then while I was studying, I just do photography on the side and like build up. I was really into like YouTube and like all those kind of things, like following other photographers and practicing and doing test shoots. So I did heaps of test shoots with like models and stuff. I think the major moment where it changed was it was in 2020 in September when COVID had been happening, but then it lifted for a little bit. Like we'd been going through the lockdowns and then it lifted, and then all of a sudden everyone was booking shoots. So I was getting some more shoots at the time. Sorry, I skipped over a step. I had finished uni by this stage. I graduated at the start of like 2020, I think, or 2019.
And so most people who have finished, were they looking to start their own businesses or their own personal brands?
No, to be honest, like a lot of people in my cohort, like they don't even do photography anymore.
Okay.
So I feel like in the degree, it's very tertiary. Like it's all about conceptual work. It's not very practical. Like they look down on wedding photographers actually. Like it's definitely like anyone could be that, but we are like artists. And I remember like my degree was a real struggle because I'm not, what I said, like the best at comprehension or like book smart. So it definitely was a struggle, like getting through. Like I actually dropped out of art in grade 12 because I was failing.
Really?
Because I like really struggled to do the art theory. And then I went to uni and I had to do it every semester. So it was quite like ironic.
Do you think that grew you a little bit though? Because it pushed you outside your boundaries in regards to you saying, well, I'm not book smart, but it kind of helped you become a different person in that way?
I guess somewhat. Like you definitely do think of things in another way because it is so conceptual. Like, so in my first year of uni, I just got 4s and 5s. Like I was just kind of scraping along, and I definitely feel like if I went back, I could have applied myself a bit better. Like I didn't really have the best what's the word? Like I wasn't very motivated to study and like apply myself. Like I found that a bit challenging, especially because I lived in the sunny coast and I'd commute. And that first year I remember just being financially stressed and everything. So just all of those changes on top of studying in uni it's a lot. So I remember like it was a bit of a challenge that first year. What was I going to say though? I was taking photos of like toilets and windows, and that was good for them. And I was
like super artsy, like
but for me I was just like, what the hell? Like that to me did not make sense. And they talk about it and everything, and because I definitely took on the approach where I'm like, that's a nice image, but for them it's like, what does the image mean? Whereas like you can tell now, like I mean you can apply the conceptual side to my photography now, but I guess I just see photography differently.
And so you said a lot of people weren't starting businesses, and that's okay. So what was that thing that made you jump start? Because you said there wasn't like a defining moment at the point, but you had the start of COVID and you were getting some more bookings. And was it just the momentum of getting those bookings that? Yeah,
definitely. Because I had slowly done work along the, that year or so. And then I just remember it being that time and like actually getting more work, because I worked like 10-hour days, 4 days a week at the fish factory, so that I had 3 days off. So like I could do photography in those other 3 days, and I always was like, I was trying to like organize shoots here and there, and when I wasn't working my normal job, I'd be editing and stuff. So I got a few jobs here and there. I also I had shot like a wedding for someone that bought my old camera. That was like my first ever wedding on my own, except that was in 2018. So along those few years, like I did jobs here and there, but then I just remember in that September, like things picking up, and I actually started earning some money from it, like a good amount of money. Can't remember how much, but you know, I was like, okay, cool. Like this is actually picking up. And I think like my momentum kept going. Whereas a lot of people I went to uni with over that year or two, they just kind of like stayed at home if they didn't work, or like they were just working their normal jobs as well that they had during uni. Do you know what I mean? Because I also went full time when I graduated, just because financially I like had to.
Yep.
But yeah, I just remember it picking up then, and then I got a job at this boutique. So that's really what changed things for me. I started working for them and it was like $885 a week. So I was like, sweet, that's like a full-time wage.
Yeah.
Like, so I did that. I'd shoot for 5 hours on Wednesday and then I'd edit all day Thursday and have to deliver them by Friday morning. So I do that, and I think I was still working at the fish factory, and I would have just adjusted my shifts a little bit. I was still working like at least 30 hours, I think.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, but that really took it off, and then I just kept getting the other bookings. So then I actually went full-time in January in photography.
Yep.
So I just like slowly dwindled out the other job, and they were really flexible with me as well, which was really great.
Yep.
Like they let me go casual, and then I went full-time after that thanks to that regular job.
That's good. And then so now you had that regular job. Were you getting paid as a sole trader for that?
Yeah. Okay. Everything's been as a sole trader from.
Right. And then you just started to grow your business by adding jobs on top of that, and eventually you gave away the fish factory completely.
Yeah, essentially. So everything, was as a sole trader. So it's just like through my ABN.
Yeah.
And then I just I don't think I put tax aside for all those times, but I think I paid enough in my other job that it kind of covered the tax for those smaller jobs up until obviously the end of that financial year.
Yep.
But yeah, it was in January or Feb. I think it might have been like February officially that I quit my fish factory job, because I was definitely getting a lot more work. And then actually it was funny. I think it was only a few months later that I lost that job. It was stuff to do with the owners, and it wasn't a great environment, but that's all right. It was definitely like a learning curve for me, and it threw me in the deep end because I didn't have that stability of the fish factory anymore. Like that, losing that job was like that week, like it was sudden. So I was like panicking because I was like, I don't want to have to go back, but I know they'd take me back there, but obviously that's just a one step backwards that I didn't want to do. And then it worked out well that this guy messaged me about shooting these weddings for him. So that's kind of what stood me into that direction.
Right.
So I was just going to start associate shooting. I think there was like 10 or 20 weddings where like I'd set in these dates and you'd get paid like $100 an hour. So it was pretty like stable work.
How many weddings did you do in 2020? That was your first year basically in
I
business?
wouldn't say I did many in 2020.
Okay.
I have to check. Like not many at all. Like last year was my biggest year in weddings.
Which was 70 something.
60 or 70.
So, which is a significant number of weddings.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Actually, sorry, I did do a few in 2020. It's really hard to think back.
Yeah.
I do remember I had a really great one in October.
Yep.
Yeah. And then, the years kind of blend together a little bit. But no, I did have a few, just like really slowly. Yeah, I had a few like good ones, and I don't know how they booked me. Like truly, my Instagram and website were pretty shocking.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did have a few of my own then. I had one like right before the pandemic started, like on March 7th. And then I had like just a couple more that year, which thankfully could still go ahead with COVID. So no, I did have a few, but that's what I mean. It was like, I'd get a booking, I'd be like, yes. I was so excited because obviously that was like so much money, so much opportunity.
Yeah. You're like, someone actually wants to employ me to do this. Yeah. You said that your Instagram and your website were pretty average, but obviously someone saw value in what you were doing. What do you think that was?
Yeah. I mean, well, one of them I knew through like my sister's church at the time. So yeah, I guess she just liked it, and I guess, it was a startup, so the budget would have worked out well for her because it wouldn't have been too expensive. I guess they saw value. I'm trying to think I don't know what it would have been in particular. They just seen some of my work and liked it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And I guess you've grown that portfolio over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And so so obviously before you got to that point, you were uploading your portfolio to your website and Instagram, and that was your main like advertisement for what you had been doing.
Yeah, I think I can't remember if I had it combined. I think I had a combined Instagram for a little bit, but I did make my weddings separate after a while just because it was like I was doing more fashion, that it was weird that I just put a few wedding photos in. But yeah, I've never had a fashion website. It's always just been for the weddings. But it was like a WordPress, like really unstylistic. Like the font and everything of my logo was terrible.
Yeah,
but
we got to start somewhere.
Yeah, like you'd go to the website and just be a bunch of photos.
Yep.
No like curation or anything. So it's definitely improved a lot since.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's really good. What do you think the key interpersonal traits you had to help you become successful?
I think I'm really driven. I think like I definitely look back and like I went through a lot of things and it was that like didn't kill me, made me stronger kind of thing, which, you know, that quote is really stupid a lot of the time. But I don't know, I think I just went through things and it's just proved, like looking back on my life, everything that I went through here and there, I've always had that mentality where like I knew it could get better. And I remember like, you know, even uni itself, like going through uni was really tough. And I was the first in my family to like ever go to uni as well. So, I mean, my parents were really supportive as well, which was really helpful. Like I know a lot of people, their family want them to do, like their parents want them to do something that will get them a job and stuff like that. So even though my parents aren't creative at all, they really do believe in like what I wanted to do. Like they supported me. So just at least having their approval for that was good, because I can't imagine having that stress of like my parents being like, that's not a real job or anything.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, it was really just myself. Like I did everything myself, which I think is important too. Like, you know, my mum said that to me later on. She was like, you know, you got yourself into this degree. Like you're the one that chose to commute to Brisbane and go out of your shell kind of thing to like do those things. Do you know what I mean? So I really had to push myself to get what I wanted. So yeah, I feel like that helped a lot.
It's a challenging thing to do, and it is very impressive, you know, what you've done.
Yeah.
So when you say you've done all this yourself, have you had a business mentor at all? Like, or anyone that you kind of look up to and you say, well, that's the model that I want to follow?
I mean, to be honest, I think I just like learn a lot of other photographers, but no one really like closely. Like I never reached out to someone and was like, can you mentor me? That would have been great. I just didn't have that idea.
Would you recommend someone doing that today?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's important. But then at the same time, you know, I look at me now and people will like email me to second shoot for me and stuff, but you can get so many people like that. And obviously I have to get the value back because my time now is obviously more limited because I'm so busy. So I totally understand why like it would be hard for photographers just to like mentor people, because that's a lot of time and, you know, it's got to be obviously.
You almost need to pay you.
Yeah, like you've got to obviously got to be willing. Yeah. Anyway, but I definitely did learn from people just because there's so much free knowledge out there. Like I think I learned just as much from YouTube and practice as I did from my degree. Like my degree definitely didn't do everything for me. Like I pushed through that. And the only reason I like kept going was, you know, I'd already like started it. And I was just like, I really just had to push through. I didn't fail anything, which was probably one of my biggest successes in life, because I just can't believe I scraped through. I think I graduated with like a 4.81 GPA or something. Fours open doors.
Fours open doors, yeah, that's right.
So, I mean, I think that definitely drove me through, but I definitely couldn't have done it without my uni friends at the time. Like they helped me out big time.
It's probably a good opportunity to be around people who are like-minded. Even if the content isn't exactly what you need, it does help you network and I guess you build each other up through that process.
Yeah, because I just remember like writing the essays, you know, for the art theory stuff, which I had no idea what I was doing. And yeah, they helped out a lot. And I almost like I would have absolutely failed this class if it wasn't for my friend like coming to the shoot and helping me with the lights. Like I was genuinely like super stuck. And obviously, struggling with your own mental health and stuff along the way, and the financial stress can be so challenging and I actually started uni with like a 1 kg, like a Zeus laptop that didn't even open RAW files. So I was already kind of at a disadvantage that I couldn't even work at home on my images that I was like taking for uni. And then I didn't even live close to the uni to go and to use the computer. So there was a lot of like little hurdles along the way, but somehow, I got through.
You did it. You did it. And so do you operate with a team of people now, or are you completely solo?
I do have a few people that I work with. So I mean, I have associate shot a lot. So that's pretty much like when I shoot and don't edit, like a few different companies do that. So I'm a subcontractor for them. And then now I do have a couple people that do the same for me, but just second shooting. So I've got a couple of people that have second shot for me. So like coming along to the weddings and just being that second
And you pay them an
photographer.
hourly rate? Or,
Yeah, pretty much. So obviously second shooting is a little less. And then I do have my friend Jerry as well. So he's been helping me with like the video side of things now that I've added highlight videos. And yeah, he actually does YouTube and everything. He's really great at all that stuff and he's super smart. And so yeah, he's been really like helpful with and also just like someone great to take along to the weddings with me, because it's not always about like, you know, what you're shooting. It's about who you are and the way you connect with the couple. So having like-minded people is really important. Like when, you know, I don't want to just bring anyone and it doesn't really suit my brand of being like friendly and professional and, you know, as well as taking good photos.
Yeah.
And then I also have just recently hired my friend just to like cull photos for me and stuff like that.
Do some editing and whatnot.
Yeah. So I did have my other friend, she does fashion photography. So she was culling for me, but then she had a baby. So then my other friend actually worked out really well that she finished up her other job. So then, and we actually went to primary school together.
Okay.
Yeah. So she's just like an all-rounder. She can do like copywriting, editing, design. Like she's great at graphic design and everything. So she's culling the photos, but she's also like doing a few other copywriting things. I've got something coming out soon, like a wedding guide sort of book.
Yep.
So she's been helping me edit that as
so
well
the
as
course that you'll sell.
It's not a course actually. It's just like a wedding guide for future brides or like brides that are about to get married.
Yep.
So yeah, so she's been like kind of like all those little things that I don't have the motivation to do. So she's almost like what an assistant would do, but better. Like she's just great. And because we like just get each other really well, I think that's important for me. Like, you know, I want to work with someone that, I don't know, enjoys company. We've got the same like goals and everything. So
that makes a huge
obviously
difference.
It's scary, you know, hiring someone and it's like at least 10 hours a week. So that's like a financial commitment that I'm making to someone else.
That's
so,
right. You feel responsible for that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Whereas obviously with the second shooter stuff, that's not like constant. That's obviously here and there.
Yep.
But yeah, so it's really great having her and it's taken like a big weight off my shoulders.
Yeah. And how would you influence your team to get the most out of them? Even though, you know, obviously she's your good friend, but, you know, obviously you have to, you know, provide some direction respectfully so you can.
Yeah. Well, she actually lives in the Gold Coast and she's come to my place a couple times. Like she'll come just one day during the week so that we can work side by side and go through everything together. But it's helpful because I go down the coast a lot as well. So I can just stop into her place and we'll just go over things in person. And then, yeah, just communication I think is the biggest thing, like just touching base constantly, checking in on things, just so that I think she appreciates that as well, because she doesn't want to do some work and then it's like not right or, you know, needs improvement and then she didn't. I think that's important. You know, everything comes down to communication, I think.
Yeah.
So.
That's fair.
And just reassurance as well. I'm quite an honest person. So like I'm not just going to be like, yeah, that's great and not be happy with it. So I appreciate people that can take that honesty in an optimistic way. You know, like it's just like constructive criticism, which I learned a lot in uni. So I think that's important in the business sense.
Yeah. And it's probably something you learn over time as well and get better at.
Yeah, definitely.
Have you had any bad experiences with people that you've hired previously?
Not really. Like, yeah, I wouldn't say really. Like,
I
haven't hired too many people or anything.
Yep.
I've obviously I've done outsourcing for retouching and things like that. But yeah, nothing major. Like, not yet anyway.
You did mention earlier when I was asking you the warm-up questions that you're chaotic. Right?
Yeah.
Or you know, not organised. But obviously you get stuff done and you have to organise yourself somehow.
Yeah.
What would be the three main components of time management for you?
Yeah, in what way? Like, I feel like a deadline definitely helps me. And you know what motivates me the most? Just having an F ton of work to do. Like, I think that's my biggest motivation at the moment. It's like I literally have to do it because I've got the deadlines are already here. Do you know what I mean? Like, especially with the weddings and shooting so many weddings this season, like I've got like 10 to 15 galleries to edit at the moment. So it's like if I don't work now, like, you know, I have to. I think there's not really a choice. Like, so I do stay quite motivated.
You stay on the treadmill, basically.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I just don't have the time to not work. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, and that's what motivates me is just like, I feel like, yeah, the deadlines are already here. So I'm like kind of playing catch up at the moment. And that's why I've hired my friend to help with me because I was just so behind. So having her is like, even if if I was like, no, I don't want to pay her and I'll do it myself, I'd have to catch up on those extra 10 hours a week, which is just impossible.
Yeah, it's pretty significant.
Sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what would be a typical day at work for you?
They're all a bit different. Yeah. Like during the week, I'd like to be in the office at least 2 days a week. And it really just depends on how many weddings I'm doing. So if I'm at home, you know, I might start at like 9:30, 10. I'm like quite a late riser, but I have been getting a little bit better.
You and Tom both, I think.
Yeah, I'm like a wolf sleep type, so I'm kind of most productive later on during the day. Like I could stay up till 11 o'clock and
That's
work.
the beauty of when you own your own hours.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have your business.
That's what I'm most grateful for, actually. Like, if anything, one of the best parts about having your own business is, being able to wake up. And just, I think sleep is really important to me as well. Like when I shoot a massive day, like I really need a good sleep the night after. So like, that's why it's so great that I can have like a full, and I sleep a lot. Like I'd sleep like solid 8.5 to 9 hours per night. And if I don't, I'm really susceptible to getting colds. Like I just can get sick really easy. And I feel like what I've trialed like the last few months is like when I sleep well and just take vitamin C, I'm good to go. So it's like no matter how hard I push myself, as long as like I can have my body rest at night, which I don't know, that seems so basic, but you know, obviously it's easy for us to sometimes just have to.
Well, it's easy to overlook that, right?
Yeah,
I can get a couple of extra hours in, but you waste time later because you've got a cold, you got sick.
Yeah, and I think that sleep is when your body like resets and really relaxes, and especially when working like such an intense day and all that stuff, I think, it's pretty vital.
Yeah. So you get going at 9:30 and then what happens after that?
Yeah. I mean, so that's if I'm like home all day. So if I'm at home, I'll just like be working at my computer. I've just got my monitor and my laptop. It can be anything. There's like so many different things that factor in, like copying files, importing things. Like I do proof selections for engagement shoots. So like a little bit of that, editing obviously, but a lot of the things is just like emails. I feel like emails take up a lot of time, lots of little tasks catching up. So I might even spend the whole day doing emails and have a few calls, and then I haven't even had a chance to edit. So that's why I find the time flies so much, because there's just so many little things to do before the editing itself. But so that's that day. And then I do keep pretty busy because I play basketball Monday and Tuesday night. So like I'll kind of just work up until my game, and then play basketball, might come home, depends how busy I am, might work some more. I don't mind like casual work. To me is like getting to watch TV while I work. So like if I was really busy or had some extra work that I wanted to edit on my time, that's when I could just like edit while I watch TV. So
yeah, that's beautiful, isn't it? And that's the benefit of owning your own time, like you spoke about earlier. And you're the boss, so if you think that's appropriate, that's
definitely. Yeah, well, I was gonna say like on Wednesday I play basketball in the morning, like in this ladies' daytime comp. So you know my day is a lot different because I won't really get to do much before I go in the morning because it's like a half an hour drive, and then I'm playing, so I might not get home until midday. And then I might do some work in the afternoon, but then I could have something on in the like in the evening or something, or catch up with a friend. So it's like days like that, they go so fast because I might only get to do a couple hours of work. Do you know what I mean? So that's the benefit too. Like I might not have the day off on a weekend, but I can go out for half the day and it's fine because that's just how it works. And I do get those little bits of breaks and stuff like that.
No, that's fair. I really like that because obviously you've got to work your life around the things you want to do in your spare time, and your business allows you to do that, which is excellent. And obviously, you've got a partner as well, so you guys do stuff together as well and negotiate your time how it works best. So Tom only has to be at work at a certain time. So
I mean, it is a bit annoying because like, sorry. I ruin his sleep patterns a lot because I stay up late. So like he'll just kind of adapt to me. Like I think him seeing me get to work late and work on my own time can definitely be a challenge for him because he'll want to do the same. Like when I'm like, I can work and just take a break to do some online shopping or something and it's fine. But for him, he can get quite distracted and he might not have that same motivation that I do when it comes down to the work.
Yeah, well, you're very self-driven, right? So yeah, okay. And so I want to talk a little bit about handling difficult clients, and then I want to talk about the art of photography. We'll circle back to that. So what is your approach to handling difficult clients?
When you say that, do you mean like in what phase would that be?
Well, I guess we can start from the beginning. You start engaging with a client straight up and you say, well, they say, oh, well, we'd like some wedding photography. This is how we want it to look, all that kind of stuff. But that might not be your style, right? For starters.
Yeah.
How do you start progressing that conversation from there? And then on the back end of that, they come back to you and say, hey, these aren't what we wanted.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've had that too often. I think I've been pretty lucky in the sense that, like, I guess when you talk about, business and photography and things, a lot of people talk about, your ideal client. So I think it's really important that you've kind of got your ideal clients, that you're attracting that, when you're putting out your advertisements and things like that. You should be attracting a particular type of person. But obviously you are just advertising to this big group of people. So there's obviously going to be some people that you don't get along with. I mean, I think a lot of people, like, if they don't like if they inquire and I send my email, I feel like you could feel what I'm like in the email. I'm quite personable and, some people might just not like the price and things like that. And then most of the time, so if they're keen to book, we'll do like a Zoom call, which is good because at least then we get the feel for each other.
Setting up the expectations a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Because I do have people that book without the Zoom, which I used to be like, oh, that's great. I don't even have to talk to them. Whereas now, obviously, my time is a lot more valuable. Like I'm booking out. So it's really important that my couples, we are for each other. Like my style's for them, their styles for me kind of thing. Like we respect each other. I think that's really important. So now it's great. Like I love doing the Zoom calls because it does set up that expectation for the day. Like we can talk, and if we don't suit each other, that's more than fine. There's so many other photographers out there and I want that couple to have the right photographer. But yeah, I haven't ever had like a really bad experience. I think because people do know what they're getting with me and I am providing the quality with the work. They're investing the money and I'm providing that return. Whereas like I definitely have like heard of other situations for people I've worked with where it hasn't worked out that way because it can be like a lot of couples will book people but they don't see the behind the scenes. So you could book someone and you don't know how professional or unprofessional they are because they're just showing you their best side. So I think that's why I do like being quite honest in my business sense as well because, you want to be on the same page as people. Anyway, so I feel like most of the time, if people don't vibe me, they won't book me.
Yep.
And then if I do manage to get someone that's not the best like match, I still do try my best. And I think it's just like when it comes to the wedding day itself, actually before that it would be the emails, right? I do already kind of have my established, like not rules, but there's a contract they sign. So if they read through the contract and they're not happy with anything, it would make sense that they tell me beforehand because they're entering into that contract. So if they wanted something that I don't provide, they don't really have a foot to stand on if that's not something I'm offering. But I'm trying to think of what that would even be like before the day. Do you have any examples?
No. Like I'm just really probing you to see what kind of experiences you've had through your time. But on the opposite side of that, have you found any customers that say, well, we're just not happy with the photos?
No, I don't think so. But to be fair, like people do see a lot of my work and, my style is quite consistent amongst, all the galleries. And although it's like people might love one gallery, but that couple has spent a lot more, like they've invested a lot more into the styling, the location, the outfits. So obviously the photos are going to be elevated in terms of like the styling and everything like that. So I think it's important that those people don't compare themselves and expect the same. But I do find that doesn't happen too often. Like I have couples that their styling isn't as great. Like it might not be what's going right now. But a lot of the time the couples are really beautiful and that's really important as well. So of course I love photographing like stylish, amazing looking weddings because that looks great. But then at the same time, that can be easy. Like a lot of people would see that and be like, oh, but you didn't have to work that hard. Whereas like I think it's important, when you get the couple that it doesn't look as great, you've got to really work harder to make it look the best it can. But I have had a couple where it hasn't been the best experience and that might just be that the couple aren't like as keen for portraits. I find that's usually the issue is that people don't like the camera. So they're like, oh, we hate photos. And I think it all comes down to the attitude of it because if people don't like photos as much, that's when I'll take more of like a fly on the wall approach. So it's me literally documenting your day without changing too much. But I do find it hard then if people don't give me the time for the portraits, then it's just like you can't expect what these other galleries get where they give you that time. Because during the portraits, like I really try to like tell them it's not all, you know, you looking at the camera and posing. It's us having fun, you guys getting to enjoy each other's company. Like
more natural experience.
Yeah, and everyone says to me, we love how candid your photos are. And honestly, that's just us having a good time. Like I think it's important that like you start off with some walking, I'll give you some subtle direction and then so that they feel comfortable. And almost every couple that I shoot with, they'll be like, oh, you made us feel so comfortable. It's not just like, oh, stand this way, let's tilt this, let's adjust your dress. Like there is shots where you can make them look really classic and posed, but then most of the time it's just the laughing, the walking, the candid. Like that's how you get all those candid shots because it's about having fun. And that's why I shoot so much as well. I feel like I overshoot a lot because I'll just like keep shooting and like be talking and laughing with them, like trying to get the moment where they're not noticing it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And then, I mean, I think it can be hard when couples booked me a while ago because obviously now my work's a bit more like elevated. I don't know if that's the right word, but like people might not value the photography as much as like my couples now do, because my couples now obviously investing more, whereas like back then when I wasn't as busy I would have had my rates lower and stuff like that. So but yeah, I've never had anyone like not happy with it because I would like adjust the work. Like no, I mean only a couple times, maybe a couple shots they would have liked that they didn't get. Nothing really in particular. Like maybe just more guest shots of this. But that's why I always have these pre-planning with the questionnaire forms and things so that if there's important details that people don't want me to miss, they can write that on the forms. That
well, that's what I was going to ask as well is how do you know, get out of them? Like, you know, how do you understand what their vision is as well of what they want to see, even though they've seen what your portfolio looks like and your general direction? But how are you drawing out those details initially? Yeah. And obviously that's that form, right?
Yeah. Well, when I have
a Zoom call.
Yeah. When I have the initial Zoom call, I'll always start like the document there. So I've got just like my own personal questionnaire form essentially. So like I'll put in the details. That's where I'll write the timeline up with them. And then I'll just write in the notes, you know, even about how they met and stuff like that, because they might mention little quirky things that can be relevant. And also, you know, if they're booking 2 years in advance, I'm not going to remember how they met unless they retell me. So that's why it's just nice. And I've, you know, who has that great of a memory with 70
So you do like a
couples?
brief before you go, like you'll brief yourself on that information before you go out.
Yeah, and I'll remember it if I keep looking at it along the way. You know what I mean? Because not every couple will book as well. You know, I might write all that down and then that couple doesn't book. So like that's information I don't need to store in my head. You know, eventually I'll forget about it. But it's just nice that like I can remember everything we talked about. And then if they mention, like, some people have no idea what they want in terms of styling, whereas a lot of other people will like have their vision already. So that's why if they have the vision, I can write that down just so that I can remember for the day. But along the way, obviously they'll progress with their other vendors, like things like the florist and all those other things. And then so I might meet them at an engagement shoot. So then that's always great because I'll be like, how's your wedding planning going? And I'll chat to them more. So like I can get a better insight into the day since they've planned it. And then before the wedding day, I always do like another initial chat. So it's just to like run through the timeline. They'll know exactly what's happening. So it's really like, this is how the day is going to actually run. And then I've got like a questionnaire form. So that just covers all the basic extra little details, as well as like they can upload any inspo photos if they like. I'm always like more than welcome for them to do that, even though they're booking me for their style. Obviously there's so many different ways to shoot, and they might like some photos in particular, like under the veil or the veil shots, all those kind of ones. People like are obsessed with them. So if they really love them, I do them. If they didn't really care about them, then at least it's not a priority. So as much as like I'm shooting in the similar style for each couple, you want to personalize it as much as possible. You know, I don't want everything to look the same. And each couple wants different things and they might be different, you know. So.
Yeah. And so when you're looking down the camera at a wedding, what are you trying to capture?
The moment.
The moment, yeah.
No, I'm trying to think. I mean, I'm visualizing just like the ceremony or something. I mean, I do like try and get as many like reactions, emotions, just all that good stuff, capturing everything from every angle essentially. Yeah. So lots, like the couple and their families, obviously like my 20%, and the guests are like the 80. So it's really about focusing on that 20 and getting, you know, the 80% return sort of thing. But then that's why it's great, like having a second shooter and stuff like that to capture more. But yeah, I'm just trying to capture like the moment and the emotion so that when they look back at the photos, they just feel the nostalgia of the day. I think that's really important to me, is like I want them to look back and just think about that person they were with, you know. I don't want them to think about me posing them into this certain way. I want it to be like just remembering the feel of them with their friends and family. If that makes sense.
Would you describe photography not only as an art but a way of capturing memory?
Oh, for sure. I think it's all about that, because it's like if you stinge out on, you know, your photos and you spend a fortune on something else, I guarantee like everyone will always regret not spending more on the photos if they didn't like how they turned out. Because like, you know, in 10 years, you'll just be looking at the photos. So it's like the way that the day was interpreted in photo form is so important, because it's like not everyone does it so simply. Like you might go for someone that's really trendy at the time, that's super warm, and then you look at those photos in 10 years and honestly, that's not what it looks like in your head on the day. So that's why like my style is really timeless and classic and like chic, I think, because I try and like keep the colors that I'm photographing. They're not too warm, but they're like warm enough that it's not cool. Like, you know, you don't look at the photos and you're like, oh, that there's no warmth in them. Like I want it to be like warm, rich in color, but like simplistic. So it's like timeless. Like I don't want my photos to date. It's just like film, you know, you look back at film and you get that nostalgia, because like film kind of captures, it obviously looks cool and aesthetic, but it does capture the colors as the day looked, if that makes sense. So yeah, I don't want to keep my colors really whack and then people looking at these photos in 10 to 20 years and being like, that looks so weird. Or like the super light and airy, like there's people that edit and it's just like super blown out. Like the couple themselves wouldn't have seen that with their own eyes. So I try and keep things like, you know, looking
as natural as possible.
Yeah, it's natural, but like elevated. I've said that a few times now, but it's my word of the day, I guess.
That's good. We can elevate it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think, you know, you've encapsulated a good idea of what you do day to day, how you interpret art at a shoot.
Yeah.
But I also want to find out a little bit about what kind of, you know, equipment you use now. No, you started off with your real basic camera.
Yeah.
But now I assume you've got some really nice, you know, equipment.
Expensive stuff.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about what you're taking to a wedding shoot, for example.
Yeah, for sure. Should I say what? I mean, so I've always had Canon cameras. So I think I had a 550D to start with, like the kit lenses. And then I upgraded to like an 80D, which was still a crop sensor, so a smaller sensor. And then eventually I sold that, and that's when I sold that to that person that I photographed her wedding.
Yeah.
I think she still uses that camera as well. Anyway, and then I bought like a beginner full frame secondhand, so that's another 6D. And then I think that's when I went to the 5D Mark IV. So that's like a pretty professional DSLR camera. And I had that one, and then I think I bought another one. Oh no, then I bought the R5. So that's what I have now, is the Canon R5. That's a mirrorless, so like that's top of the range, like $5,500.
Much lighter than a standard.
To be honest, no, it's not that much lighter. Okay. It's a little bit lighter, but it's just a bit more compact. So obviously there's no sensor. So it's all LCD screen, everything like that. So I bought that camera back when I was like not even doing great, and all of these are like BOD loans, Bank of Dad, like interest free. Thanks, Dad. Still paying off a couple of things there, but yeah, so I've got that camera because I was like, I needed 2 cameras actually for the weddings, because I'd started second shooting and it's all about 2 cameras, which funnily enough, now I shoot with 1 camera at a wedding. So, yeah, so I upgraded to that camera, but then it was so new that I couldn't edit the files the way I edited the other ones. Like Adobe hadn't released the color profile, if that, you know, makes sense. Pretty much a preset is built off this color profile. So I just couldn't get it right. So then I just went back to shooting on my 5D Mark IV, and the R5 just sat there for a while. Anyway, so then I kind of wanted 2 of the same camera. So then I bought another 5D Mark IV, so then I had 3 cameras. And so I was shooting on 2 of those, and then Canon released the color profile. So now I've got 3 cameras and I want to shoot on the R5. Anyway, I still have all of those ones. And then my R5 broke because the shutter count was at 530,000. So I was at a shoot with my sister and her family, and the shutter mechanism broke. But I had a backup. See, that's where we talk about backups.
How do you handle equipment failures?
Yeah, so actually the first time I had something fail on me was at a wedding. I think it was last year.
Yeah.
and it was the lens. So it was a 24-70 Canon lens. So I shoot a lot on zoom lenses. That's pretty common for like fashion photography. And I think, you know, when you shoot a lot and you're really fast, there's this difference between prime lenses and zoom lenses. So back in the day, you know, and when I'm saying back in the day, like a year or two ago, prime lenses, the glass is a lot better, the quality is better and whatnot. But now with like technology being better, you can get a zoom lens and get everything the same but more convenient because you can zoom. So I was at the wedding and it broke like just before the ceremony, and I didn't have a backup of that lens, but I was the second shooter, so it wasn't too detrimental. And I do have other lenses, but I think I just didn't bring them, you know what I mean? So I did have 2 cameras and everything, but I just had like, one other lens. So thankfully, the first shooter, she just lent me one of her spares.
Yeah.
But that was one of those moments where it's just like, you know, you can't feel that until it happens.
Yeah.
So ever since then, I've definitely brought all my gear to the weddings. I think it's easy to be ignorant until it happens to you. Just the same with your hard drives. Like you'll back up to one hard drive and then, you know, that will corrupt. And it's only that, you know, you can't prepare until it happens. Well, sorry, you prepare obviously, but you know, you can't prepare for that feeling until it happens.
Yeah.
So it's like, once it happens, it's like, you'll never dance with the devil like that again, like with files. And obviously it's such important memories and everything.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to the gear. So I did buy another R5 recently because I had like heaps of weddings. So I do have those other 2 5D Mark IVs and they're great. To be honest, the quality is the same. It's just different technology. So it's with the sensor. So it's not LCD. The main difference for me, it doesn't have the eye tracking. And I find with weddings, you know, it's so fast paced. The eye tracking focus is super helpful for me.
Right.
So it's just like if we're walking, the camera just tracks the eyes. So that's important. That's what you focus on all the time. So it keeps it crisp. I bought another R5 and I still have my other 2 cameras. It's ridiculous. Yeah. And I guess because they're like going out of date, it's just like you can't sell them as easy. And I've just been a bit lazy.
Yeah. Well, so like obviously you like the technology because, you know, people, I don't know, maybe some photographers think, oh no, I like the pure basic cameras and this is the look I go for. But you obviously get a lot more value maybe out of the newer stuff with the eye tracking, all that kind of stuff.
I suppose so. But then again, like there's the R6 as well, which is a bit cheaper and it does the same thing. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people are moving to mirrorless. To be honest, it's definitely like, you know, your gear helps, but it's not the be all end all. Like you can get amazing photos with a different camera. I mean, even the other cameras I use, they're just as good, if not like, they're the same. It's just slightly different. Like there's not much of a difference. I just got like sucked into the whole mirrorless thing and went for it. And then, I've upgraded my lenses along the way. So I shoot on just like a 24-70, which is like the RF version. So that's like the newest version of the mirrorless camera. So I'll actually just shoot on that camera these days, like at a wedding, but I also shoot on film cameras too. So and sometimes I'll shoot the one digital camera, but I've got 2 film cameras, which is just a bit weird, isn't it? Because it's like a bit backwards, but I hope that makes sense. So I do have a lot of gear. I think it's easy to like eventually just start collecting it. Whereas like obviously back in the day I'd be like, what can I sell to help me buy more gear?
Yeah.
Because now it's more of a business write-off. So
yeah, that's good actually. And when you buy equipment now, do you have a better concept of how to manage all the accounting behind it?
You mean like just claiming as an expense?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, somewhat. Like I have QuickBooks and stuff, so now I can put all my expenses through there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, so it makes it really easy to manage.
Yeah, I do buy a bit secondhand as well. So actually I didn't mention, so when that first lens broke, I really struggled without that lens for a while and I didn't have the money just to buy another one. And it was such an ordeal to get it fixed. Like it took a few months and I ended up borrowing my friend's lens. And then I think I did buy another one when I found one secondhand for like $1,600. So I bought one, started using that. I eventually got the other one back and I'm not kidding, like a couple of weeks later, the new one I bought secondhand broke.
Oh,
it's like this really common manufacturing issue with the lens. Like because you zoom so much, there's a ring inside which gets worn out and snaps. So, but I had the other lens and I just remember being at a wedding and it broke and I was like to the videographer Tony, I was like, Tony, go get my other lens please. So it was fine. See, like that's why it's so important because it can happen at any time.
Yep.
Even like when I'm going off of photos and let's say I left my camera bag in the car and I just took my one camera, what if like that broke while I was on this shoot, and just the inconvenience of having to walk 20 minutes back to the car.
Yeah.
That 20 minutes could be really important.
Yeah.
So yeah, it can be tricky. Like I'll always take all my backup gear to the wedding, but I might leave it in the car, and then I hope that makes sense.
Yeah,
so
that does.
I do always have a lot.
So if someone was getting into photography today, okay, like just a casual person.
Yeah, of course.
What would you suggest that they start with?
Oh, I can't really suggest like a camera because there's a million, as you'd know. I mean, I always recommend like secondhand is great for a lot of stuff. Like there's not really much reason why you'd have to buy firsthand. Obviously some stuff could be not as great on the inside, but most camera gear is quite durable.
Yep.
So yeah, you'd probably be better off YouTubing like different, because there's so many different brands. There's like Fuji, Nikon, Canon, Sony, like there's so many. So it really comes down to just what you like. And then obviously just a beginner DSLR or something, but it's pretty easy to get your hands on anything these days.
And if they want to move into professional photography, is there like a minimum that you'd say, well, you need at least something like this?
I mean, obviously it's not going to be like a crop sensor DSLR. So that's like really beginner. It would just be something full frame or like a mirrorless camera. But they're so easy to get these days. I feel like it's a lot more accessible. Like whereas, as the technology happens, like gets better, there's more out there.
Yeah.
But that's more like, I feel like that comes down to the technical side of things. So you'd be better off just going into like a TEDS or something and just asking them the technical side of things. And then it comes down to personal. I think once you start with something, you'll get the feel of what you like and don't like.
Yep.
Because there's not really something to say that my brand's better than Nikon or something. Like my amazing photographer friend, Taylor, she shoots on Nikon. So, and her work's incredible. So I think it just comes down to like what you like.
Yeah.
It's honestly like Apple and Android a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, and maybe after we can go over a list of things that you might suggest.
Sure.
And we can add it in the description. I think that'd be quite helpful.
Sure. Yeah.
So let's wrap up today. Hey, so what motivates you to keep going? What keeps you hungry? Right? Because you said that you're quite a motivated person earlier. Like you want to keep doing this work, you love it, but what kind of gets you there?
My instant thought was like the money, but that's right.
The money's good.
Yeah. I don't know. I think like I said this to the studio manager at this studio I was at the other day. I was just like, in the fashion industry, I kind of swapped over because I just never saw myself like making it to the top. Like there's a few amazing photographers in this industry, in this area. And I was just like, I could just never see myself being that successful. Like I just don't have the creativity behind me. But then when I moved to weddings, like I definitely like see myself improving a lot, and I definitely think I can be up there. Like I see myself like being as successful as like those best wedding photographers out there. There's nothing stopping me. So I guess just that, like getting better. And just like when I get the taste of those like really stylish, incredible weddings, that is what like keeps me going, because I'm just like, I want to get like ones like this more. And I am actually shooting a few weddings in Europe next year. So that's like, I'm super excited for that to happen. Yeah. So I've got one in Lake Como and 2 in Greece so far. And I've got 2 other potential like tentative ones. But just like I'm so excited once I shoot those, that will elevate my work more worldwide. So
well, that's incredible that you're getting bookings overseas.
Yeah, and honestly, that's just all through marketing on Instagram. So I was just going there for holiday, so I was like, I might as well just try and get some weddings, and like booked 3 already. So they're all Australian clients. So I think once I post those, that'll kind of like change my work to being more available worldwide. Like again, that's something I never really saw myself doing until I got these, and I was like, well, it's actually really possible for me. So I think once I post those, that will kind of have me more available for clients around the world. And then I think eventually Tom wants to live overseas, so I might go over. And I think now it's a bit more realistic that I could get work over there. Whereas initially I was kind of like, no, my business is going so well here, but
Tom might not have to work.
Yeah, he likes to say that a lot, actually.
He's gearing up for it.
Literally.
He'll be your PA before you know it.
Yeah, he's been asking me a few times. But
That's so good. So what's your best advice for someone who wants to start their own business? Like, how do they follow their dreams and aspirations?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think it comes down to like what fuels you, because what I really enjoy from the weddings is like I'm a part of people's like best day of their lives, like, and the gratification that comes from it is what fuels me. I think like people loving their wedding photos, that's what keeps me going. So I think you've got to be really passionate about what you do and like enjoy, obviously providing the service and getting that feedback that keeps you going. I think that's where my drive comes from. That, and then what else? Yeah, I think just that whole staying true to yourself. I think people say it all the time, because when successful people like, share like their journey and stuff, it all comes down to like, just being who they are and like keeping on that grind. I don't know. I think I wanted to say keep working hard, but I don't know if it's easier said than done. Like,
well, sometimes it is, but it probably helps a lot, like you said, to follow a passion. You got to love it.
Definitely.
And it's got to drive you every day. Obviously, what you do drives you. It gets you up in the morning. It gets you. Otherwise, if you didn't like it, you wouldn't get up.
Yeah,
right?
I think once you taste that little bit of success, that just keeps you going. Like, once like I booked that first year at wedding, I was just like, oh man, like I'm just gonna like keep on grinding and see what else is out there. Because I think once you reach that first step, it just opens you up to like so many more opportunities. And I think at the start, it is just so much hard work consistently. Like it sounds like I've got a cushy flexibility like thing at the moment, but then I do shoot weddings like a few in a row, and I drive like Toowoomba, Gold Coast, Brisbane, like Noosa constantly, and I have
60 booked this year.
I definitely don't sleep 8 to 9 hours every night. That's just when I can. Like I definitely like get to those points where I feel super overwhelmed. And I have been experiencing that a little bit more lately, but just keeping on. And actually one thing, when I used to go through hardships and I'd like tell my mum about it, and she'd just say like particularly in uni, she'd be like, you'll get through it, you always do. So I think that really helped me. Like when I know it's not easy for everyone, but when I go through those really low patches or like challenges that are really hard, I just remember like every time I've gone through something in my life, I've always gotten through it. So I know that I'll get through this and like it'll get better. Like you will see the light at the end of the tunnel eventually, even if it's a long tunnel.
No, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking us on.
I rambled a lot.
No, it was fantastic. I really appreciate you taking us on this journey today, and I'm sure there's a lot of really good bits of information in the things that I know there is that to help other people as well, and I hope others find it quite interesting. I think what you're doing is really impressive, and you've come a long way for sure.
Thanks.
So you should be really proud of yourself, and
thanks for having me.
No pleasure. I really look forward to seeing your work moving forward. International
Have you even
photographer.
seen any of my work?
Yeah, I've seen some photos on Instagram. Yeah,
I'm actually terrible. You shouldn't put me on. Just kidding.
No, all
cool.
Good. Oh, thank you.
Oh, thanks.
Bye.
Thanks for having me.
Hi, Elliot here. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this podcast today. I hope you're enjoying the content, and I really look forward to bringing you more.